Hey guy, welcome back to my channel. As usual, at the start of the month, we've got some new updates, so I'm making the October tier list right away. In this video, I'll give a quick overview of a few heroes that have had some slight changes. For the other heroes, you can check out the September video. I'll leave the link in the comments below. That way, returning players won't waste time, and new players won't miss out on any important info. First, in Tier D, we have the Penguin and Deadshot dropping down in rank. The reason is that they're not widely used since their teams are pretty weak, or they just don't fit well into most lineups, making them less useful in battles. For example, the Penguin, to be honest, in terms of raw damage, he can actually deal very high damage. But within the Arkham faction, he doesn't really have a place. He doesn't provide much team support, and his only effect is slowing enemies, which isn't very effective in Arkham teams, nor is it something that can replace what other heroes bring. As for Deadshot, he also deals high damage and has the ability to reduce enemy healing. On paper, that's a great skill, but the problem is it only works on a single target. That makes him useless in battles where you're facing multiple strong enemies. In the current late game meta, he doesn't fit into any lineup. If his healing reduction worked in an area of effect, then he might be worth considering because reducing enemy healing is almost the same as reducing their defense or shield. And the biggest downside for both of them is that their fourth skill is basically useless. For the Penguin, being a ranged character but only dodging melee attacks is pointless. Honestly, if the enemy can already reach him in melee range, it usually means his whole team won't survive anyway. For Deadshot, since he's a physical damage dealer, accuracy isn't really necessary. Increasing accuracy doesn't help much. It would be far better if it boosted critical damage or critical rate instead. Now moving on to Tier C, we have Stargirl and Atom ranking up. The reason is, Stargirl is actually very useful in many game modes. For example, in Combat Cycle, you really need her to defeat the boss the Drowned. However, you do need to upgrade her stars quite a bit. Ideally, 1 red star, so she can cleanse 5 stacks of debuffs from allies. That's what allows your team to survive. Since Joker and other heroes from the Arkham faction can stack debuffs very quickly, Stargirl won't be able to keep up unless you have that red star upgrade I mentioned. That's also why she can't move higher than Tier C. Besides that, she does have other useful survival skills for her team, such as reducing incoming damage for allies, lowering enemy accuracy, and increasing allies' resistance to debuffs. As for Atom, even though he self-destructs after using his ultimate, the damage from that skill is extremely high. Personally, I think it's on par with some mythic limited heroes. Of course, the downside is the self-destruction, but in battles where you need to finish things quickly, he can actually be a solid option. For example, if you're running a team of 4 AoE damage dealers, adding Atom means everyone is dealing area damage, which can completely wipe out the enemy team. The risk, of course, is if the enemies survive that burst. If they do, then you're almost guaranteed to lose. Next, moving on to Tier B, we have Harley Quinn dropping in rank. To be fair, Harley Quinn is a good hero, but her team is lacking. Without proper team support, it's hard for her to reach higher tiers or stay strong in the long run. If you notice, in her faction, only Deadshot provides solid damage, and Hawkgirl has decent but not outstanding damage. The rest of the team mainly focuses on survival, and while they do survive well, they can't compare to real tankers in terms of durability and utility. That's why when her team faces Joker, Constantine, or Supergirl, it's almost a guaranteed loss, and those heroes aren't even rare in the current meta. Because of this, I think Harley Quinn needs to be placed lower, at the same level as Hawkgirl. Next, in Tier A, we have Aquaman and Cyborg move. In my opinion, they rise in rank because of how useful they are, especially since their support isn't limited to just the Justice League faction. For example, Aquaman has been used more frequently recently because he's a strong counter to Nightwing and also controls certain assassin-type heroes like Deathstroke. On top of that, he can support many AoE damage dealers who don't have a wide enough range by themselves, such as Talia, Lex Luthor, Swamp Thing, and many others. I'll make a more detailed video about that later. As for Cyborg, his ability to apply a debuff that increases the physical damage taken by enemies makes him extremely valuable for teams with physical damage dealers. And as you know, lately there are a lot of strong physical attackers compared to before when most were just single target. Having Cyborg in your roster to boost their damage is definitely important. Even though his base stats are similar to Captain Cold, Cyborg is clearly better because his debuff works in an area of effect. That alone justifies a higher tier. In fact, I'd place him on par with Two-Face, or maybe even higher, since Two-Face really only shines in Arkham teams, while Cyborg is effective in mixed teams as well. Now for tier A+, we have Martian Manhunter moving up 2 ranks, while Zatanna drops down. For Martian Manhunter, I used to underestimate him because his skills felt a bit awkward, especially his counterattack mechanic. But after a closer look, he actually survives incredibly well, good enough to act as a tanker, even though he's not a guardian. I've seen many players use him at 5 blue stars, and he performs impressively thanks to having both spiritual defense and physical defense, making him very hard to take down. One thing that feels a bit odd is that both Supergirl and Martian Manhunter have self-buff skills for both defenses, but my 1 purple star Supergirl survives much worse compared to a 5 blue star Martian Manhunter. At first, it was confusing, but after doing the math, it makes sense. If you have 5 Superman family members, a 5 red star Supergirl only increases both defenses by 60%, while Martian Manhunter boosts his up to 75%. That explains why his survivability is way higher. As for his counterattack, I don't even care much about it. As long as he survives longer, he naturally deals more damage over time, since he needs to be attacked often to really shine. On the other hand, Zatanna is moving down a tier. The main reason is that she's no longer essential for the Justice League Dark team. She can be replaced by other heroes, and now with Swamp Thing available, the team benefits more from his defensive support other than Zatanna's offensive boosts. In my opinion, survival matters more than damage for JLD, since Constantine already brings massive damage to the table. Giving him more attack won't matter if he can't stay alive, so Swamp Thing is a better option. Also, the Flash provides solid offensive support too, but since he's melee, he gets defeated too easily, which is why I can't put him in A+. Meanwhile, Superboy is a far better offensive support compared to Zatanna, which is why I placed him in tier S. He may not fit perfectly with JLD, but he's an excellent choice for physical damage teams thanks to his skill 1, which is outstanding, and his ultimate that increases attack over time. Any physical-based team with him becomes extremely strong. Finally, in tier S, we also have Swamp Thing. Like I mentioned, I value survivability more than extra attack for JLD because Constantine already has insane damage. If he dies early, boosting his attack means nothing. Swamp Thing's 4th skill reduces incoming damage for the whole team from the very start, and in JLD it's doubled, giving the team incredible durability. With that, they no longer need to fear assassins. The Justice League Dark was already strong, but with Swamp Thing, they become even stronger. Finally, in tier S+, you might be surprised that I've placed Scarecrow back up in rank after a very long time of being lower. The reason is because he's now truly a great tanker. In the past, he wasn't strong enough, but after the recent updates, he can now both survive well and control enemies. On top of that, he applies debuffs that reduce enemy damage and also lower enemy spiritual defense, which means he not only helps his team survive, but also boosts their overall damage output. He also generates a shield for himself, allowing him to survive long enough to transform into his giant form, which further increases his durability. With all of these combined, he fully deserves a spot in tier S+, especially since right now there are very few tankers that are as complete and well-rounded as he is. Alright, that's the end of my tier list. Feel free to share your thoughts and feedback so I can improve it even more in the future. I always listen to your suggestions. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.